Welcome to the Tech Playbook, where we dive inside the stack. This is where we explore how products are built, how teams work, and the systems and decisions that power modern technology. Today, we're getting into something that happens all the time but isn't talked about enough. How startups, in their race to the top, can accidentally build products that are unsafe or non-compliant. We're going to look at the constant battle between speed and regulation, and what happens when ignorance gets thrown into the mix.
This one. For years, this was the gospel of Silicon Valley. It was Facebook's motto, and it was basically a green light for innovators to prioritize speed over everything else. Build it, ship it, fix it later. And you know what? It built empires. But now, that whole philosophy is under a massive microscope, because technology isn't just about social apps anymore. It's in our banks, our hospitals, our cars. And the things being broken now, well, they're a whole lot harder to fix than a software bug.
So, if the risks are so high, why is everyone still so obsessed with moving fast? Well, the truth is, in the startup world, it often feels like a matter of life and death.
So you've got two camps here. On one side, you have the proponents who say that if you're not fast, you're irrelevant. Your competitors are shipping new features every week, and if you wait around trying to make everything perfect, you'll be left in the dust. Speed isn't just a strategy, it's a survival skill. But then the critics step in and they warn that this obsession with speed is creating a fragile digital world. It's eroding customer trust, it's creating massive security holes, and it's making the systems we all rely on, well, pretty unstable.
And that tension, that push and pull between moving fast and being careful, leads startups right into a hidden danger. It's a concept every founder needs to understand, and it's called the compliance debt trap.
Let's just pause and really think about the stakes here. 10 years ago, breaking things might have crashed a website for an hour. Annoying, sure, but not life-altering. But today, startups are handling our money, our medical records, our literal DNA. The things that get broken now are our privacy rights, our financial security, and in some cases, our actual physical safety. The consequences are on a completely different level.
So what is this compliance debt? Think of it like a credit card you use to buy speed. Every time you cut a corner on security or ignore a regulation to ship faster, you're swiping that card. You get the instant gratification of a product launch, but in the background, you're racking up a huge bill. And that bill is the cost of going back and fixing everything you ignored. The scary part, just like a real credit card, the interest compounds, and pretty soon, paying off that debt can cost way more than it took to build the entire product in the first place.
So how do so many smart people fall into this trap? Well, it's rarely because they're bad people. It's because they're in a pressure cooker. You've got investors breathing down your neck for growth. The founders might be brilliant engineers, but they know next to nothing about financial regulations or healthcare laws. They're running a lean team, so there's no money for a compliance person. So what happens? They decide compliance is a problem for future them. They'll just bolt it on later. And that right there is the core issue, prioritizing growth over governance.
Now that "we'll deal with it later" mindset is fueled by some really common and really dangerous myths. So let's do a quick myth versus reality segment and bust some of these.
Okay, myth number one. Compliance is just a bunch of red tape designed to slow us down. The reality? It's actually a business accelerator. Seriously, big enterprise companies won't even talk to you unless you have your compliance in order. It proves to investors that you're not just playing around. And most importantly, it's how you build trust with your customers, which is the ultimate foundation for growth.
Myth number two is a big one. We're just a tiny startup, these big regulations don't apply to us. This is one of the most dangerous myths out there. Laws like GDPR in Europe or CCPA in California don't care how big your company is. They care about whose data you're handling. If you have even one customer in Europe, guess what? GDPR applies to you. It's about where your users are, not where you are.
And the third myth. We'll just raise a bunch of money and hire lawyers to fix it all later. The problem is, investors have gotten incredibly savvy about this. They've seen other companies blow up. So now, during due diligence, they dig into everything. And when they find those compliance gaps, and trust me, they will, it can delay your funding, give them a reason to lower your company's valuation, or just kill the deal on the spot.
So what happens when that bill finally comes due? Well, the consequences aren't just a slap on the wrist. They can be absolutely catastrophic. We're talking about a startup graveyard filled with companies that thought they could outrun the rules.
I mean, just look at this list. Theranos, completely dissolved, and its founders went to prison for bypassing medical regulations. LendUp, a fintech company, was literally ordered by regulators to shut down for its lending practices. Ubiome, a biotech startup, went bankrupt after an FBI raid for fraudulent billing. And BlockFi, a giant in the crypto space, had to pay a massive settlement for selling unregistered securities before it also went bankrupt. The key takeaway here is that for every single one of these companies, ignoring the rules wasn't just a problem, it was the end of the line.
And just to put a real number on this, $100 million. That's how much BlockFi had to pay in a settlement. $100 million. For most companies, that's not just a fine, that is an extinction-level event. This is the kind of money we're talking about.
This quote from the Department of Justice about the Ubiome case just says it all. The founders turned a blind eye to compliance specifically in pursuit of growth. That's it. That's the whole story in one sentence. It shows you the direct path from making that trade-off to total, catastrophic failure.
Okay, so the problem is clear, the stakes are incredibly high. But this isn't all doom and gloom. There is a smarter way to build. There's a strategy that lets you innovate without risking everything. It's called the shift-left solution.
The idea behind shift left is actually pretty simple. Imagine your whole product development process is a timeline, going from left to right. Left is the idea phase, right is the big launch. Most companies wait until the very end, at the far right, to think about compliance. Shifting left just means you move all those checks to the very beginning of the process. You think about security and privacy when you're designing the product, not right before you ship it. It's about building safety in from the start, not trying to bolt it on as an afterthought.
So what does that actually look like? Well, first, you assess your risk from day one. Figure out which rules apply to you. Second, you design for trust. You build privacy and security right into the core of your product. Third, you document everything. Investors and auditors need proof, not promises. So you create those audit trails as you go. And finally, you automate as much as you can. Use modern tools to constantly scan for problems so you can fix them before they become a crisis.
And what this all leads to is a fundamental shift in what it means to launch a successful product. For years, the goal was the MVP, the minimum viable product, just the bare minimum to get it out the door. But today, viable isn't enough. The new gold standard is the minimum responsible product, a product that not only works, but is also secure, compliant, and trustworthy from the moment it goes live.
And that really brings us to the final question we have to ask ourselves. In a world where one little mistake can cause massive, cascading problems, is breaking things still a sign of innovation, or has it just become another word for negligence?
Thanks for tuning into this episode, brought to you by the Tech Playbook Inside the Stack. If you found this useful, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe for more clear, practical tech education. This is the Tech Playbook, and you're inside the stack.